Hi guys and welcome to another vlog. I am driving this. This is the Toyota Innova. It also says Innova on the key right there, and nothing has actually changed on this car other than the fact that it gets a BS6 compliant engine and the 2.8 engine has gone. Oh my god, this is actually super heavy. Yeah, that is the engine bay. No hydraulic struts. There is insulation right there, of course. And you know what? It also comes with a 2.7 liter petrol engine. That petrol engine guzzles so much fuel that it's like doing charity towards the Indian government. You know why? Because all the fuel pumps are actually owned, fuel companies are owned by the Indian government, and you'll be filling so much fuel in the car, it'll be baffling. It looks the same as before, there's no change on the exterior front, but we'll still do a quick walk around of the car. You see the grille is quite big and you get the gloss black finishing right there. Big Toyota logo, yeah, that also looks nice with this sort of a silver finishing and chrome as well. Meanwhile, that is chrome again around the fog lights around. The indicator placement is very lower down. It doesn't get LEDs, which is disappointing. It gets a projector setup for the low beam. For the high beam, it is regular halogen, and you see there's a chrome line on the inside as well. Okay, I'll show it to you on the other side. The indicator placement is like really low and weird. It's a bulb, so the lights need to be upgraded. Of course, you see these are the LED DRLs, which look quite nice on this car. Actually, the Innova has the typical Innova design language, which is there since 2005. It's unmistakably an Innova. In fact, the wheelbase is also the same between the first gen and the second gen of the Innova, but obviously the size of the car has become massive to improve the interior room of this vehicle. Anyways, the wheels on this car are 17 inches, lower trims get 16-inch wheels, which give it a better ride quality somehow. 215 55 17s is the size of the tire. You see the suspension. Yep, that is the suspension of the vehicle. Fit finish and all is very good. This is chrome line, chrome outside rear view mirrors, indicator placement right there as well. And yeah, it has this projection thing happening. Can you see that? Yeah, it projects something. You guys can happily guess what it is. Okay, chrome door handles. You get a request sensor on both the sides, which is also quite cool. Car is really very long. Coming to the rear, you get these L-shaped tail lights. L-shaped tail lights. Alright, it's a typical MPV tail light design now, I think. And you can see the exhaust. Well, the exhaust is here. This is the exhaust of the car. It's vibrating. And the spare wheel is right below. You can see it is actually an alloy, and the size of the tire, well, seems to be a full size one, but it requires a lot of effort. Towing hook is actually placed below. Again, here is the towing hook of the car, and that is a reflector. Rear parking sensors, Innova Krishna written right there. Bulbs, no LEDs, disappointingly though. And of course, I mean, it gets a rear spoiler as well for aerodynamic efficiency. Just kidding, it doesn't need any of that at all. Okay, the reverse parking camera is somewhere here. Where's the reverse parking camera? There is the reverse parking camera. Let's open the boot right away. You press a button and you have to push it because everything is very heavy on this car. Now, okay, even with all the 3 rows up, there's decent amount of space in the boot. So boot carrying capacity has increased and improved. Okay, there's another headrest if you want to use that for another passenger, which basically it gets a 50-50 split seat. So one is up right now. It takes a lot of effort to put it down. There you see, I have put it down. Yeah, to pull it back up, well, you need to press buttons everywhere. Okay, this is actually to raise it, and when you raise it, you can just pull it like this and you can slot it in place. It's quite convenient, but this is what I'll show you. Pull it back into place. Now, in order to seat another person, this is the headrest which can be put here. Nice position for the headrest, which is very nice. Yeah, proper slot so it doesn't move around. So it becomes a 6-seater or a 7-seater, and actually also comes with an 8-seater option with a bench in the center. It's so convenient and easy to put the seat down. That's really very nice. Yeah, now you can do it with one hand, but you need both the hands. That's the amount of effort which goes into doing this. Here, it's back into place. As you can see, the last row of seats are not really spacious. Enough for kids, but not really for tall passengers because the seat is also very high. Under thigh support is very poor. Your knees will always be towards your chest or touching them as well. Okay, there's a slot here. The good news is that you get proper seat belts for everyone, including the middle passenger, because there's a seat belt coming out from there. That's kind of cool. So it's a very usable 7-seater with the last rows purely for kids. Now you see, this is where the diesel goes, but you know what? The AdBlue goes inside there, not here. Usually it's near the fuel lid. Let's get into the rear seat. First and foremost, you can see there is decent amount of space on offer. Why do I say decent? It could have been much better, right? Of course it can be. You know, to make it much better, there's this lever. Okay, you just push it and there you can increase the space in the second row. That's a lot of space on offer. That's crazy. And of course, if you want to give the third row guys more space, then you can pull this ahead as well. But you know what, the travel isn't much, so that's a little restrictive. Okay, last row I would not go into it because not much space, but easy to get into the last row. You can simply tumble it. There you see, that is so easy and convenient as well. Yeah, oh my god, you see it says, what is this brochure? Honda in a Toyota. That's kind of weird. Okay, some genuine parts are there inside. Okay, that's an air filter for a car which has done 1200 kilometers. That's ironic. And easy to recline both the seats. You see there's a light placement there as well. You can actually increase the carrying capacity of this car massively. Very practical vehicle in that sense. Now, seat is very upright. You can recline it further by pressing a button, and you know, you can recline it as much as you like. It reclines a lot actually. This is the full recline. The only issue is, you see this thing, the lower back support is too much in excess, so that's not comfortable when you recline it. And there's an armrest here which is facing upwards. So again, you know, these things could have been slightly better, although seat comfort is good. Seats are good in the second row. The seats in the first row are better. Captain seats, press this button, let's put it back into place. Okay, here we go. Yeah, it's too upright somehow. This is like a better angle. Let's straight away get inside. Let me tell you, there is acres of space on offer. There is so much room. Under thigh support is also really good, really very nice and impressive. Headroom is also good. My goodness, this is a great place to be in. Yeah, and if you want a tray, well, there's one here as well, along with a cup holder too. So it's like a picnic place. That's really nice. Yeah, seatbelt height adjustability is there as well. And there are no rear AC vents here because the rear AC vents are on the top, and there are controls here for the rear AC vents. So you can increase or decrease the fan speed. You can increase or decrease the this thing also, the light or light intensity as well. Shut off the AC. Guess what? You got rear AC vents here in the third row as well. So you see all the three rows get AC vents, and you get handle everywhere along with the hook. There's a handle on the driver's side too, and there's a light. Look at this button for the light. It's really very cool, nice to press. Sort of chrome line. You get ambient lighting, blue color. So really nice second row to be in. In fact, there's a light placement on the top too. I love the second row. It's really very awesome. Only thing is, it could have been more convenient the way this is done. Another disappointing thing is there's no USB socket in the second row, but you get a 12 volt charging socket here, and you get cup holders here. Yeah, you get cup holders here. Accessing the last row is easy, like I already shown you. So Toyota's done a massively awesome job in terms of the second row. You see there's so much space on offer. That is one of the reasons why this car sells so well, because it's very practical, yet it misses out on a lot of features disappointingly. It doesn't get Apple CarPlay, it doesn't get Android Auto connectivity, it doesn't get a sunroof either. And you see this is the request sensor, which is there on both the sides. Yeah, okay, it gets an 8-way driver adjustable seat, electric adjust that is, and there's a proper dead pedal right there. This is to open the fuel lid, this is to open the engine bay, this is the button for cleaning the DPF, the diesel particulate filter, this is for the parking sensors, and door pockets are large enough. So you know what, it's got 20 bottle holders in the car, 20 bottle holders. It's really big. You can keep so many bottles. It's absolutely baffling. Obviously, you can keep 2 on the trays. You can keep maybe 2 here as well, 2 in the center. At the rear, yep, at the rear also, there you see there is storage space. So it's like a very practical car. Good amount of practicality has been given, bottle holders and whatnot. These are the controls for the power windows, and these are the controls to lock or unlock the car. These are the controls for the outside rear view mirror adjustment, and you see it's a one touch up down for all the windows. That's super duper awesome. The one touch thing is something which is very convenient. There you see it, one touch up and down. And that's not all, it's got a bottle holder here as well, which means that you can cool your drink. The same is there too on the co-passenger side. Seats are extremely comfortable at the front. It says Krista here. Now the seat is a mix of leather and art leather, which is artificial leather. That's again a good thing, because yeah, it's actually quite comfortable as such. First things first, let's push this seat behind. Okay, co-passenger does not get that electric adjust, but you know what, did you notice one thing? It's so smooth and easy to do it. Now the glove box is very small somehow. Yeah, that's not a big glove box, but they're twin glove boxes. The upper one gets the cooling function as well, and guess what, you can actually lock the glove box too. Dashboard design is quite nice. It's very funky. It has one piece design, and car feels very airy in spite of not having a sunroof, and in spite of having black interiors like the black dashboard. You get this wood treatment in the center. Now the problem is there are a lot of shiny plastics and they are hard. Trust me, real hard plastics, but a lot of design elements somehow. Alright, beige treatment is really nice. You see the lining here, very well done, very premium. That's there at the rear too. So Toyota has done a mixed bag of good and bad things, like no auto dimming inside rear view mirror on a car this expensive, shocking. This finishing here is amazing on the sun visor, and obviously you get a light along with the mirror. Same is the case here as well, light along with the mirror. Now the instrument cluster looks really very rad. I like it. Steering feels nice to hold. Plenty of buttons here. In fact, this is for the cruise control. This is obviously for the wipers. Wipers work really well. Plenty of spray on offer as well. Meanwhile, these are the controls for the headlights. It gets the automatic headlight function, which is also a good thing. Steering wheel is heavy to hold. You see the stitching is really nice. You see the wood treatment too. And you know what? It gets a decent audio system. Not really a great one. Let's play an audio right away. Although I'm really sorry, but I don't know what is this exactly and why is it showing that right now on the screen. So let's get into FM, and here we go. Audio quality is average at best, and this is a very cumbersome infotainment system to use. You know why? Because it is from the 1980s. Just look at the color. What is this color? Where are the colors gone? Okay, fine. It's slick to use, but it's very difficult to navigate. You don't understand what you're doing. I don't understand why Toyota has given the Innova Krista a very age-old infotainment system. Come on, like, we are in 2020. It should have been more funky. It should have had better colors. Now, this is a 7-inch unit. Obviously, it's got plenty of options. It's got USB, it's got a DVD outlet, but no Apple CarPlay, no Android Auto connectivity. Let's get into reverse right away. This is the reverse parking camera of the car. It gets guidelines which are shockingly not adaptive. Yeah, that's surprising. These are not adaptive guidelines on the car. Okay, there is a clock placement here. And you know what? This is a hazard light button. But disappointingly though, again, there are no physical controls for this thing. Yeah. So it becomes very difficult. You're pressing this button, which is not very intuitive. Okay, there is a map card here because it gets navigation as well. But honestly, Apple CarPlay and Android Auto connectivity missing. That's again surprising. These are the controls for the air conditioning. You can turn on and off the rear AC from here. Obviously, it's a climate control air conditioning. One zone though, and here it is giving you the light for the passenger airbag. These are the modes of the car: eco mode and power mode. You can turn them on from here, and this is for VSC, which is vehicle stability control, or you can call it traction control, or you can call it ESP. No matter what you call it, it does something very similar. Now there is good amount of storage space here. You see, they can keep a lot of stuff here as well, and there is the only USB in the car right there. Meanwhile, this is a 12-volt charging socket, so yeah, charging options could have been better. There's another cup holder here. And this is obviously the gear lever of the car, which kind of moves in a very different way, which is very Toyota way of doing things. Okay, below this armrest, there is storage space, but again, there is no power outlet on the inside. Okay, they have given a USB here and an aux here. So yeah, it gets two of those. Earlier, I think it was missing. And there's a coin holder right there. Okay, physical handbrake, of course. Meanwhile, lot of buttons on the steering wheel. These are actually for the audio controls. This is to pick up a call. This is to decline a call. These are the controls to operate that multi-information display. Again, it says Innova in the center, just in case you forget which car you're driving. Now, first things first, you can see the instrument cluster is actually quite funky. Everything is analog, like of course the speedometer, the fuel meter, the tachometer, and of course the temperature meter. But in the center, we've got a multi-information display which has got plenty of information. You can use these buttons to actually browse through. So it tells you what is the range, and it gives you an eco score as well. Like you can get into eco scores, like a lot of focus on eco score. It says 8.7 kilometers per liter is the fuel efficiency of the car right now. You can get into navigation. It's showing me the compass right now, audio, as well as messages and settings. So it's actually quite loaded and gives you a lot of information. Now here, in order to get to that eco indicator, I really have to browse because I just don't understand how to browse the system. It's very cumbersome. Okay, finally we are here. Audio, eco. Okay, this is the eco score. It says I've been doing an average speed of 24 kilometers per hour, and now the cruising range is 181 kilometers per hour, which is like distance to empty. Let's see the past record. Nothing here. I mean, it's just very gimmicky, not of much use, honestly. But there is a sunglass holder right on the top, and of course, a lot of light controls here. This is for the lights. That's about it. Nothing more to talk about the Innova Krista because it doesn't really come with the amount of features it should for the price. Let's get driving right away. Alright, we're all set to go, which means we turn on the car. There it rose to life, and you can feel it that it is much more refined than before. So BS6 has got refinement to the table, and there finally the reverse parking camera is turned on, and we are into first gear. My goodness, it's a workout driving this car because it has a hydraulic steering wheel. Okay, the reason for hydraulic steering wheel is obviously cost cutting, but Toyota will tell you that it is more robust, it is better, and yeah, that's how it works. So we are straight away going to get to a rough road to see how is the ride quality of this car. Now, of course, all of us know that Toyota has done a good job when compared to the older Innova. Now, this is the BS6 compliant version, so there's not much which is different other than the fact that the engine has been updated but we'll come to that in a bit. Ride quality is fine actually. Yeah, the suspension has good amount of travel as well. The steering likes to move on its own, and this is a highway. I don't know why every time there is a scooter or motorcycle coming, see the steering wheel turn, because yes, it has this thing, you know, that when you drive it over bad roads, there is just too much feedback coming from the steering wheel, just like Duster, little bit here as well in the Toyota Innova. But the steering is super heavy at low speeds. It's like too heavy, and while the ride quality is good, you know, it's a body on frame platform, so that lumpiness is always there, which can be felt all the time. The other bigger problem is that over bad roads, like really sharp potholes, it can feel, it can be felt on the inside. It thuds through, and yeah, it kind of rattles the car. Now, of course, the Toyota, so you won't expect it to squeak, but somehow the last row seats or something of that sort is squeaking when a car which has done just 1200 kilometers, now you can feel it is moving around a lot, because you know how a body on frame is. The body is different, the frame is different, obviously, then that lumpiness of a body on frame platform is so felt. This is a very heavy car because Toyota has not done hydrofoaming to the chassis, which is done by Tata and Mahindra on their cars, their hydrofoam chassis. The reason they've not done it, because they're like, we have to sell this car in multiple countries where it's not possible to do hydrofoaming because blah blah blah, whatever, just an excuse. However, let's not care about that. Of course, it's a very old school layout with a rear wheel drive setup, which actually is a good thing because it lets you spin the wheels very aggressively. Now we are going to get to the main road. The roads are so bad now, I kind of wonder what's happening. Okay, that is the Kia Seltos GT line. Car has a stiff suspension, so that's why he's also like almost driving as far as possible from the bad road. Now he's going to take a U-turn. Alright, and yeah, actually the Innova is not really convenient to drive because of the steering being super duper heavy. But the good thing is that the engine is now smoother than before. It's more refined. You can see or feel the performance of the car in spite of us being eco mode. Yes, that's right. And the other beauty is that even though I'm driving in eco mode, or whichever mode you drive, if you lift off the throttle, it gives you an eco indication. So there are multiple modes which are mixed and matched somehow. And I've seen another Toyota which is not a Fortuner or an Innova after a real long time, and that is the Altis, which has been discontinued. Somehow when driving the Innova, I can see just too many Innovas on the road. Like everyone is buying an Innova right now. It's crazy the kind of sales this car is enjoying. Baffling to say the least. BT bachao, BT padhao. You know BT is bad trip.
बेटी मतलब वो डॉटर वाली बेटी है.
अच्छा, डॉटर वाली बेटी है. ओ, मुझे लगा सन वाली बेटी भी होती है. ये कौन सी मराजो है? लोगों को उम्मीद थी मराजो आएगी, इनोवा की सेल्स कम हो जाएगी. इनोवा की सेल्स इंक्रीज हो गई. जब भी कोई एमपीवी लॉन्च होती है, इनोवा की सेल्स इंक्रीज हो जाती है.
हाँ, because Innova is Innova.
अच्छा, obviously Innova is an Innova ना. Innova cannot be Corolla. Corolla cannot be बेटी बचाओ बेटी बढ़ाओ.
No, but Innova is a reliable car, यार.
तुम्हारे तरह सब सोचते ना, इसलिए Innova बिकती है अच्छे से.
Like that's a fact.
When genuinely good MPVs like Xylo are not selling.
Dude.
What?
That's a Mahindra, like really. और इंडिया में to be very honest सबको वो सब चाहिए, maintenance and this and that. Toyota is a very good low maintenance, not low but yeah, budget में है यार.
Toyota is like a wife, low maintenance, and Xylo is like a girlfriend. But why would you want such a girlfriend who rolls all over the place? She does roly poly.
हाँ भैया ये भैया ये वो नहीं टच हो रहा भैया, क्यों टेढ़ा कर रहे हो? नहीं हो रहा है.
Let's get into power mode. Let's get manual, rather sports on the gearbox. Driving the motor, it actually does a burnout. You can do a burnout. Motor gets very vocal in the top end. And this is a 2.4 liter engine because the 2.8 has been tata bye bye. You know why? Because it doesn't make sense to sell an Innova which costs like more than 30 lakhs. Although the top end Innova almost costs rupees 30 lakhs. We'll talk about that in a bit. So what they have done is they have given an automatic to the 2.4. Earlier it was the 2.8 automatic and the 2.4 was only a 5-speed manual. Now of course you get the 2.4 with a 5-speed manual as well as a 6-speed automatic gearbox because the 2.8 has been removed. So what is the power output? 150 PS, which is the same as before. That's ironic, right? And the torque output 343 Newton meters. Again, the same as before. But for the automatic, Toyota has actually improved or increased the torque by 17 Newton meters. This one makes 360 Newton meters, which is actually identical to the 2.8. However, the 2.8 obviously produces 174 PS of power. This one produces 150 PS of power. So it's down by around 24-25 PS of power. and that can be felt because the 2.8 just felt much more eager, was faster by a second 200. This takes 12.5 seconds to go from 0 to 100 kilometers per hour. That one used to take 11.5 seconds. But anyways, we don't have much to complain about because performance is more than adequate. This is a car which is quite quick. 11.5 seconds to 100. 12.5 because 11.5 for the 2.8 is actually quite bafflingly quick for a car which weighs 1900 kgs and of course is very big in terms of size and doesn't really handle either. Traction control off. Left foot on the brake, right foot on the accelerator, revving the motor. Four and a half thousand RPM red line. It will not upshift because we are in sequential gear shift mode. Yes, that's right. So yeah, it gives you complete manual control of things as well, which is very nice indeed. But the top end doesn't have much grunt, so it's better you just put it into normal sport mode. So here's the funny part. There's a power mode which actually alters the engine of the car. Okay. And basically if you put in eco mode, it also alters the air conditioning, but largely it alters the engine. Doesn't do anything to the gearbox because gearbox is a separate mode, regular drive mode or sport mode or manual mode as well. Okay, there are no paddle shifters on offer, but you see they're kind of differentiated, so you can mix and match things according to your own liking. And obviously when you get into sport mode, it will hold on to a gear longer, but there's no point because it just doesn't have the grunt in the top end. As soon as you get onto the gas, there's a little bit of hesitation in terms of giving a downshift. Yeah, it's decently quick in terms of upshift. It's a torque converter gearbox, but it's not really fast enough. But of course it doesn't need to be fast enough in an Innova because an Innova is not about driving fast anyways, but the cabbies obviously drive very fast, the Toyota Innova. Funny thing is that refinement has improved from before, but still you can feel that this is a loud engine. In fact, at idle it is more refined than before. However, you can feel the dieselness, the clatter is there, especially on the outside you can hear it. But more importantly, when you get past 3000 RPM, it really has a lot of noise filtering through. Now that 360 Newton meters of torque comes in at a low 1400 RPM and peaks at 2600 RPM. So nice torque band lower end of the rev range, which gives it nice grunt. In fact, peak power of 150 PS comes in at 3400 RPM. But the fuel economy isn't that great. It will return between 9 to 12 kilometers per liter depending on your driving style. Obviously, the cabbies will stretch it to 15 kilometers per liter by turning off the car down a slope. But for actual real world usage in the city, you're going to get around 9 to 10 kilometers per liter and stretch that to almost 12 to 13 kilometers per liter out on the highway, because this is actually a very fast car, has quite a lot of punch and pulls strongly as well. The steering though is a big disappointment because I told you it is very heavy at low speeds, but you know what? It feels lighter at high speed, so it doesn't weigh up as such, and obviously it doesn't give you much feel or feedback either. And there's a tremendous amount of body roll as well because of the size, because of the platform which is a body on frame, and of course even because this is a car which just doesn't communicate enough. Now of course it's rear wheel drive and you can go drifting in your dreams because it will not. It is just so heavy, and that weight actually adds to its high speed stability because it feels very stable at higher speeds, and the suspension is also tuned well to gobble up the miles. So you see, it's actually able to do a good job in filtering all these bumps, but I can feel a bit of vibration on the steering wheel, and because of that vibration, obviously you want to slow down further. Braking performance is decent, but a car which costs so much, 30 lakh rupees, why don't we get rear disc? Like really, Toyota really cuts cost anywhere they see, which is surprising. Now they'll say we've spent money on QDR. Okay, I believe them. Check this out. So it's actually doing an upshift at around 4000 RPM, and in manual mode you can take it to 4500 RPM as well. There are 23 variants of the Innova on offer, 23 variants, and the base price is actually 18.8 lakhs, which happens to be for the base version of the Innova, which is actually a petrol engine, the 2.7 litre petrol, and the base diesel is at 20 lakh rupees. The top end diesel is the Touring Sport, which is at 30 lakh rupees. The one we are driving costs somewhere around 28.8 lakh rupees, which is the top end automatic, of course, not the Touring Sport, the non-Touring Sport version. And the premium for the automatic happens to be 1.43 lakhs. Yes, that's right. So you can see that prices are really on the high side for a car which, I mean, could do with better quality for sure, with more features as well. But then this is a very reliable car, and that is the reason why it's having a premium. And it's also having the premium because there's no real competition for the Innova as such, because you know what, there's no other MPV in this range or in this segment which offers you what the Innova does, that is absolute, terrific, rather bulletproof reliability, and that is the reason why the Innova is unmatched and people are willing to pay that premium. I know the premium is massive, and of course the car sells well because in spite of that, you don't even get an auto dimming inside rearview mirror on a 30 lakh car. Isn't that baffling beyond measure? What a bad horn. Anyways, the Innova is more oriented towards people who really want something extremely reliable, and they live by the reliability tag, although cars are getting more reliable now. But I think, pay a little bit of a premium and get the Kia Carnival, which is so much better in terms of driving feel, in terms of ride quality as well. I mean, yeah, the car's steering wheel is a bit disappointment here from the enthusiastic driving perspective, and you see, although the ride is good, it's still not the best from an MPV perspective. So a lot of things which don't align with how the Innova is positioned as such. Now of course it gets a DPF, which is a diesel particulate filter, and it gets a SCR as well, which is a selective catalytic reduction to comply with BS6 emission norms. There's a button here, you need to press that button if you get a warning light on the instrument cluster, and that warning light comes when well, obviously if the DPF gets clogged when you're just driving it at low rev, so it needs a little high end rush to clean it. Press that button, and that also happens, and they tell you when you're cleaning the DPF by pressing that button, be far away from combustible things and whatnot. Yeah, so that BS6 is a pain in the rear because you have to do a lot more maintenance as such. But anyways, at least we're saving the environment now. How are we saving the environment? We are driving BS6 cars. Meanwhile, the trucks are like years old, polluting. No one cares about that. Let's get behind the life of private car owners because, yeah, they are vulnerable. Forget all this political talk for the moment. When you get onto the gas, now you realize that beyond 3000 RPM, it becomes really loud. But performance is so brilliant. Now I can't put it in words. The performance of the Toyota Innova is absolutely staggeringly good. It just pulls. Yeah, it is not the most juicy in the low end. Although it's quite drivable, but not the juiciest in the low end as such. And you see, can I do a drift? No, I cannot, because tires are also wide enough. The sun is right in my freaking face at the moment, which is a sign that it's time to end. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked it, make sure to give it a thumbs up. That's the like button, and also subscribe to the channel. This car will actually do a top speed of 180 km/h, and it will remain stable at that speed. You can carry 7 people because it's a very reliable car. Bye bye.